Hi, glad to see you again. Actually, I wish I could see you, but we're doing the best we can here. Thanks for joining me again today. This is number 41 from the Pottag Preparatory Melodies to Solo workbook, and this is entitled Canzone. What I try and do is get as much information from the music itself, from the notation, and from any instructions, directions, any of the words that you see. Now, some of those words might be in Italian or German or French or whatever. And you'll have to interpret them. You have to find out what they mean and then see what they mean in the context of the music. So there's a little work on your part. But I don't consider it work because what I'm trying to find out is what can help me to understand what this music is trying to say. Now, I am highly in favor of direct musical experience. In other words, I might just look at this piece, the first thing I'm doing, because I have the skill to do it, and if you're working on this skill, this is one of the most important skills for being a musician. When I look at it, I'm hearing it in my mind. So I'm hearing the actual pitches, I'm hearing the rhythms, but I'm also hearing in much, much more detail what could the expression possibly be before I even start playing the instrument. I'm feeling the phrasing, I'm trying to understand how the music is constructed, but not from a purely analytical music theory way, but from an experiential way, a direct experience. So I'm trying to let the music tell me what it wants to do. And that's a process. And sometimes it can take a very long time, and other times it's almost instantaneous. But for me, this is fun. I hope it's fun for you too. I'm going to go ahead and play this song, and a canzone is a little bit more specific. It's it's kind of like a madrigal, usually from Italy or the Provence area of France, from like the Middle Ages. So if you really wanted to, if you were a scholarly person or just curious about things, which I try to be curious, it's a good place to be. You might want to do a little research into listening what these kinds of songs sounded like, and that may give you a better idea about how to perform it. Sorry for all the talk. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get through this one this morning, okay? I had a little trouble with concentration on that one, and so I want to just address that a little bit. Music is a continuous movement of sound in time. And one of the biggest problems that we can have is staying connected to the music, staying engaged with it. I recently saw a performance of Yo-Yo Ma, the great cellist, who came to WGBH studios in Boston and recorded live, continuously and by memory, the 6 Bach cello suites. It was 2 hours and some. That is a tremendous feat to do that. Now, you have to take into consideration, he's been playing these for 50 years, more. In other words, since he was a child, and performed them and recorded them many times. But the point I'm trying to make is that no matter how well he knows, he can't lose connection with the music. And I did lose connection a little bit there. So there are a couple things going on that I want you to keep in mind and listen for. One thing is there's a physical connection that takes place. In other words, when we're playing as a wind instrument player, the wind is always moving, or it's suspended temporarily, or it's stopped by the tongue. But usually the follow-through of the breath through a phrase is continuous. And it certainly is in a singing style like this. So I'm going to play one of those spots that might give some people some issues, and then talk about that connection. Now, for trumpet players, generally speaking, it's easier to keep things connected when they're at a comfortable volume, when they're not moving too quickly, and when there's not a lot of large interval work. And so we have quickly and interval work going on here, and we have some serious dynamic contrast. See, that adds lots of layers of difficulty to what you're doing. So I want to remind you, keep going back to the music and seeing if you can let it help you. So there's a gesture. Basically what's happening is this without the decorations. It's very, very simple. So my practice when I approach any piece of music is to try and see how I can simplify it to the greatest degree possible, and then play those simple parts, the simple ingredients, in this case the gesture, a simple slur, with beauty and grace and precision and consistency and accuracy and quality. I'm especially listening for a certain kind of musical quality, and that is what sparks my practice. That's what keeps me going. So it can be a frustrating process, and if it's frustrating, keep making things simpler or approach it from a simpler standpoint. For example, you might do an expanding interval scale. So, because what are you doing? Well, you're playing a flat 7 here. And if you have difficulty as those intervals get larger, it's pretty simple. You know what to work on. And I'm not talking just for, beginning and intermediate players. Intelligent, players who are dedicated to their art are trying to refine these skills all the time. And it's just like anything that requires a combination of paradoxical elements, like golf, for example, where you're doing things that are extremely delicate and extremely precise over extremely long distances, and also with a great deal of force at times. Full body movement. It's like, wow, that's such a difficult game, and it's so much like trumpet playing. So what we need to do is just, can we just get the feeling of the simple stroke? And for us, that's the air stroking past the lips and producing the sound. So connecting the notes, yes, physically connecting them, but musically connecting them, and then combining those two things together, that's one of the main things that you want to work on when you practice. Now at the end, after you've been playing lyrically for much of the piece, with only minimal articulation, all of a sudden he starts articulating at the end. So that will give a lot of people problems. For one, drop into the low register. Another, it's soft. Another, it's quickly moving. Another, it's changing direction all the time. You see how complicated this is getting? And, I left out, changing range, changing dynamics as you go up. So work on one thing. Can I get comfortable just finding the note and staying in it? If it's not as easy as that, as singing, then you got some work to do. And we get ourselves in a bad place sometimes because we start to associate the problems and the struggles and the difficulties and the discomfort or even pain of playing the trumpet with something that's what trumpet playing is like. No, it's not. One of my colleagues in the Boston area is very fond of saying, "Oh, playing the trumpet is so easy." Of course, that's a very annoying thing to say, because for a lot of people, it's not easy. But what I think he's trying to convey is the same thing that Herbert Clarke said. When you're playing the trumpet badly, it's very difficult. And when you're playing the trumpet well, it's very easy. So keep that in mind when you're practicing. And the only way I know how to get to easy is to do things that are simple enough and easy enough for me to manage and have success with at a certain level of quality, achieving a certain very, very rudimentary goal. And then as soon as I get that and get consistent with it and get comfortable so that my body relaxes and lets go and I actually trust it, then I raise the bar a little bit. And for me, that's the whole process of practice. I practice all day long that way. And what am I doing? I'm sharpening the skills that already exist, and hopefully I'm continuously learning new and better ways to do things. So I hope that gives you a little idea of what you're in for. And I hope for you, it's not work. I hope for you, it's fun. I hope it's like a game. So go play the game of trumpet playing, and I'll see you later on. Have a great day. Bye-bye.